Welcome to White Pill Media.
Look alive, wage slaves, presenting.
So I'm going to be reviewing The 10th Man. It's a movie starring Anthony Hopkins. It's set in France in 1941, Nazi-occupied France. I think this is going to be the only video I have this week. I had planned to put out like one or two more. There are times when we run a little dry on the Kino. You know what I mean? I finally saw the assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford. Really didn't like that movie. And I don't want to just like make reviews of like movies I don't like or recommend. Not too often. Does that make sense? So that's not a recommendation. I was recommended a series where the premise was good. It's called City of Vice, and it's this 5-episode British TV show, but really not a good series. And there's just like there's like just chunks of like global homo in it, and it's like, oh fuck it, I'm not reviewing that. So this is what we got this week. Hopefully next week I can have like 2 videos out of some stuff I like, and we'll see. We got Anthony Hopkins in here. We have Derek Jacobi, who I only really know him from I, Claudius. I, Claudius is probably my favorite TV show of all time. So check that out if you want. It's just excellent. Great history, great writing, great characters. But we're in France. You know, World War II is going on, and Anthony Hopkins is a man named Chauvel. He's this rich lawyer, right? German soldiers, I don't know if this is true, if anything like this happened in real life, but we're just going by logic in the movie, okay? So German soldiers round some people up on the street, you know, because they want some people to take up as hostages in case the French resistance like commits acts of sabotage and whatever. And Chauvel is one of these men, okay? Once some sabotage goes on because he's locked in the cell of all these other guys, you know, the order comes down that 1 in 10 men will be shot. So all the men are going to be drawing lots to see who gets killed. And if that sounds interesting, you know, check it out. It's not like a super big recommendation, but I do think it was a decent movie. You know, I didn't hate it. And there were parts of it I liked, but it's not like a favorite. Does that make sense? Going ahead with spoilers, 1 in 10 men are going to be killed, okay? So this reminded me quite a bit of Decimation in the Roman army, and that's like if you had a legion that like retreated in battle, or like they did something wrong, or they were insubordinate or tried to mutiny, they would draw lots in groups of 10 men, and then whoever drew like the shortest straw, that guy would be beaten to death by the other 9 guys in the group. And that's fucking intense, you know? That's really fucking metal for discipline. But Chauvel ends up being one of the 3 guys in the cell of 30. But there's this young man, Mangio. I believe that's how you pronounce it. I'm not really good at French names. But Mangio is this unemployed man with a mother and his sister, and he's really sick. So he makes a deal. So Chauvel is able to convince him to make a deal to take his place to be shot, and he gives everything to his mother and his sister, right? And Chauvel like kind of regrets his decision, and he tries to get Maggio to back out because he doesn't want this young guy to be killed for him, but Maggio is determined. He thinks that this is the best course of action to protect his mother and his sister because they're very poor. We then cut to 3 years later after the executions take place, and the prison is opened and freed, and Chauvel is now out walking around with a beard. He's kind of he's contemplating suicide when he's at this riverbank, and you know, you just feel bad for him because we saw him like in the prison, just this small broken man in a corner. And while some people might be like, he's kind of a coward, you know, for reacting like that, but you know, he hasn't done anything wrong. You know, he's just an average man picked up on the street, and he's told, you're going to be executed in a day. You haven't done anything. And as like a lawyer who believes in like law and order and justice and all that, that's like really hard for him to take because he's been like fairly sheltered from the war and all that stuff. So I don't view him like as a coward or a weak man, you know, just because I think that's how like the average human would react in that situation. I think that's very human. But when he's contemplating suicide, he finds this golden ring to sell, right? So he's got a little money, and he's just kind of wandering and homeless and aimless. And now he doesn't really have a home to go back to. Chauvel clearly has regrets about the deal that he's made. You know, he tried to back out with Maggio, but Maggio refused. And even on leaving the prison, you know, his kind of not immediate, but one of his early actions is to commit suicide, and he represses that, but he's not a villain. He's not a bad guy. He's very human, and he's very conflicted over what he's had to do, and I think the audience feels the same way. But he does go back there, and he finds the mother and sister of Maggio. I believe Teresa is the name of the sister. Chauvel ends up lying about his name and calls himself Jean Perret. And the sister reveals that, she really kind of hates Chauvel, so it's a good thing that he keeps his identity a secret and can't believe that her brother would trade his life for this house, and she can't accept that her brother would think that they would want this house over, their brother, right? Her brother, her mother's son. And Chauvel and Teresa start to build up a bit of a relationship because he's working around the house, and she wants him there because he came up with the story that he was in the cell with Maggio, but he is not Chauvel, right? Chauvel hates himself, a bit. He talks about her with it. He lost both his parents the same year, so he has not had an easy life himself.
Chauvel made a good living. He must be a pretty hard, calculating sort of person.
Why do you say that?
Well, you don't become a rich lawyer by accident.
No, he inherited that law practice. All he ever wanted to do was hurry back to his house and his garden. Just like a failure. Afraid of being found out.
Sounds as though you hate him too.
Huh? No. No, I despise him. Just for what he did.
He's trying to chip away at her hatred at Chauvel, if that's possible, because she's so filled with hate and just can't allow herself to really live anymore. Them having lunch, they're sitting with this wine, they're dancing together, they clean up the dining room, which they haven't used before because they just find the house too big, but it's romantic, it's slow, it's nice, it's something I don't think a lot of movies do anymore, I want to say that Tinder is better, one night stands, those are better. Just animalistic, hedonistic urges and just living off those and the next dopamine hit, that's better. It's better than this. That's all I can say about this movie. It's too slow. Tinder would be better. Because she's kind of mocking the portraits of Chauvel's parents, she asks, can you imagine them, and Chauvel has a good counter here.
Can you imagine them doing something human, like dancing or kissing? Can you imagine them in love? How would they show they love someone?
Oh, I suppose they expressed it just like you and me.
But, as things are kind of building between them and we think maybe he'll reveal his identity, but at least they're kind of falling in love, Derek Jacobi has shown up and he is claiming to be Chauvel. Chauvel going along with it. And he wants to go along with it because he thinks that if Teresa hates him enough, that she's able to just let her hatred of Chauvel go. If she can just hate this man, this physical man that's standing in front of her instead of the idea of Chauvel. Because it's a lot easier to hate an idea of something rather than when you're confronted with the real thing right in front of you. Turns out that Derek is on the run for murder. He was a collaborator during the war, and he's the son of one of the guys that was in the cell with Chauvel and Maggio, so he knows the whole story. She wanted to try to kill Jacobi, but she can't do it. She can't quite do it, and Jacobi's kind of wormed his way into the household by being Chauvel and just confusing her and just messing with her head. And Jacobi's now making moves on her, and he's pushing the real Chauvel out of the household. Chauvel finds his courage at the end. He's not a coward in this moment because I think everyone has a moment that they can kind of react in weakness and then regret and regret and regret. And he ends up coming back for her and saving her from the fake Chauvel by calling himself who he is. And Jacobi freaks out because he thinks he's signaling the police. So he shoots him and runs, and he's kept her safe at the end. She can live, she can move on past Chauvel. At the end of the movie, he's able to face what he wasn't able to face before. He could not face the firing squad, but here, against the fake Chauvel, he can face down his gun. He can do it because he's protecting Teresa, right? Like Maggio did it to protect his mother, his sister. Chevelle has found his courage to protect her. And it's good. It's good. It's a nice way of handling it. I like it. It's a recommendation. It's not like, yeah, it's not quite a favorite, but it's a good movie. I enjoyed it. Just repeating myself here. It's just nice to see movies with like decent romance and that type of thing. And just like, I don't know. I think I just get turned off by how kind of like pornographic everything seems to be, at least with like modern TV shows and just like graphic. And I know I'm a hypocrite here and there, but I don't know. I feel like some is like okay to an extent, you know, but it's just way too much of like more modern media. Anyways, I got some shit posting stuff on my channel, like Professor Xavier, but he's a sexual predator. That's a classic. And other reviews of like TV shows and movies. I strongly recommend I, Claudius, if you like Derek Jacobi, and it's just, if you want like probably the best written TV show I've ever seen, check it out. I'll probably have a TV show to review next week, maybe a movie, and that's going to be it. Thanks for watching. Dr. Infinity out.